morning, dear students. Welcome to today's English class. Today we are going to deal with the new lesson, the invention of Vita Wonk. So let's start the class. Mr. Willy Wonka begins by inventing Wonka White, which makes people younger. So Mr. Willy Wonka is a scientist and he invented one medicine named Wonka White and that makes people younger. If we drink that medicine or uh, Wonka White, the people become younger. Okay, they won't get old. Okay, but Wonka White is too strong. But the medicine was too strong. Some people disappear. So, some people disappear because their age becomes minus. Okay, when some people had Wonka White, they disappeared from the world because their age become minus. One person actually becomes minus 87, which means he has got to wait 87 years before he can come back. So age become minus. Minus means age cannot be minus, isn't it? That means when one person had the drink Wonka White, he has gone 86 years back from his birth. That means he has to wait 87 years to be born. Okay, to have birth in this world, he has to wait 86 years. Then only he can born again. Okay, here. So that is why it was too strong. Mr. Willy Wonka must invent a new thing. And now Mr. Willy Wonka is going to invent a new thing. So let's see what it is. Mr. Wonka said. So once again I rolled up my sleeves and set to work. So the scientist Mr. Wonka said that once again he is going to work. Once again, I squeezed my brain searching for the new recipe. I had to create age to make people old, older, oldest. Haha. I cried. For now, the ideas were beginning to come. So, Mr. Willy Wonka says that he wanted to work again. So for that he squeezed his brain. That means he pressed firmly his brain. He began to think deep, searching for new recipes. Okay, because he wanted to make something, or he wanted to invent something that will create age. Okay, that thing will make people old, older, oldest. Okay, so now some ideas are coming to his mind. What is the oldest living thing in the world? What lives longer than anything else? Okay, so these are the questions he has now. What is the oldest living thing in the world? And what lives longer than anything else? A tree, Charlie said. So, Mr. Willy Wonka is talking to Charlie. Okay. A tree, he says. Charlie said. Right, you are, Charlie. But what kind of a tree? So, Charlie said that a tree is the oldest living thing in the world, or a tree can live longer. So Willy Wonka agreed. Right, you are. But what kind of a tree? Not the Douglas fir, not the oak, not the cedar. So he named so many trees. Douglas fir, oak tree and cedar tree. They do not live longer. No, my boy. It is a tree called the bristlecone pine that grows upon the slopes of Wheeler Peak in Nevada USA. So according to Mr. Willy Wonka, the oldest tree in this world is the bristlecone pine tree, which grows in USA, Nevada, USA. You can find bristlecone pines on Wheeler Peak today that are over 4,000 years old. And we can find a tree which is 4,000 years old in the Wheeler Peak. Peak is a mountain slope. So a bristlecone pine tree which was 4,000 years old that we can find out in Wheeler Peak today. This is fact, Charlie. This is true, Charlie. Ask any dendrochronologist you like. So, who is a dendrochronologist? A dendrochronologist is a person who studies or who use scientific methods to dating the tree rings to know the exact year or to know the exact age of the trees. Okay, such studies are called dendrochronology. Okay, dendrochronology is the study of dating the age or the how old the trees are, counting the rings of the trees. Okay, you can see in the picture. So that started me off. So he started his journey. I jumped into the great glass elevator and rushed all over the world collecting special items from the oldest living things. So Mr. Willy Wonka jumped into the glass elevator created by himself. Okay, and he can travel in that glass elevator to anywhere or all over the world. He traveled to collect special items, ingredients to make that thing, okay, in order to make a medicine that make people older. So what are the items he collected? Let's look. A pint of sap from a 4,000-year-old bristlecone pine. A pint of sap means the juice coming from that tree, bristlecone pine. Okay, a very small unit of liquid from the bristlecone pine. The toe-nail clipping from a 168-year-old Russian farmer called Petrovich Gregorovich. So he also collected the toenail of an old Russian farmer. Okay, his name was Petrovich Gregorovich. An egg laid by a 200-year-old tortoise belonging to the king of Tonga. So he collected the egg of a 200-year-old tortoise. The tail of a 51-year-old horse in Arabia. He also collected the tail of 51 years old horse in Arabia. The whiskers of a 36-year-old cat called crumpets. He also collected the whiskers of a cat, a 36-year-old cat, and its name was crumpets. An old flea which had lived on crumpets for 36 years. He also collected a flea. A flea means an insect. Okay, an insect that had lived on the cat crumpets for 36 years. The tail of a 207-year-old giant rat from Tibet. He also collected tail of a giant rat which is 207 years of old. The black teeth of a 97-year-old grimalkin living in a cave on Mount Popocatépetl. He also collected the black teeth of a 97-year-old grimalkin. Grimalkin means old female cat who was living in a cave. Okay. the knuckle bones of a 700-year-old cattle from Peru. So he also collected the knuckle bones. Knuckle bones joins in the hand. Okay, bone uh, of a cattle. Cattle means a kind of buffalo from Peru. So he collected many items from different animals and trees which are too old. Okay, all the items he collected from different things, they are very old. Okay, so he wanted to make people older. That is why he collected different things from oldest things and oldest animals. Okay. All over the world, Charlie, Mr. Wonga went on. I tracked down very old and ancient animals and took an important little bit of something from each one of them. So he traveled all over the world and he collected many things, little things from different old and ancient animals and things. Okay, which are the items he collected again? Again, he collected a hair or an eyebrow of, sometimes it was no more than an ounce or two of the jam scraped from between its toes while it was sleeping. And he collected a hair or an eyebrow or something, a very little amount of things he collected. Okay, sometimes while they are sleeping. Okay, I tracked down the whistle pig, the bobolink, the scrock, the polyfrog, the giant curlicue, the stinging slug, and the venomous squircle. So these are some of the animals from which he collected some of the items to make his medicine. Okay, the whistle pig, the bobolink, it is a bird, the scrock, the polyfrog, the giant curlicue, the stinging slug, and the venomous squircle. It's a kind of snake. And that snake can spit poison right into your eyes from 50 yards away. So he collected different items like hair, eyebrow, nail, etc. of these oldest living or ancient animals. Also he collected some items from all these animals. It was very dangerous also, so sometimes he collected when they are sleeping. But there is no time to tell you about them all now. But now I have no time to tell about all these things in detail, Charlie. Let me just say quickly that in the end, after loads of boiling and bubbling and mixing and testing in. So I tell you, one thing I tell you, Charlie, that after just quickly that in the end, what did he do? After a loads of boiling, bubbling and mixing, so he started these things to boil, bubble and mix, okay, and testing in my inventing room. So he is doing a lot of experiments with these things he collected from all over the world. I produced one tiny cupful of oily black liquid and gave 4 drops of it to a brave 20-year-old Oompa Loompa volunteer to see what happened. Okay, so after boiling, bubbling and mixing and testing a lot, he made a tiny cupful of oily black liquid. Okay, he made something out of these things and gave 4 drops of it to a brave 20-year-old volunteer to see what happened. So finally he experimented that medicine on a 20-year-old person. What did happen? Charlie asked. Charlie became curious and he asked, what happened? It was fantastic, cried Mr. Wonka. So the effect was fantastic. The result was wonderful. The moment he swallowed it, he began wrinkling and shriveling up all over, and his hair started dropping off, and his teeth started falling out, and before I knew it, he had suddenly become an old fellow of 75. And thus, my dear Charlie, was Vita Wonk invented. And what happened to that 20-year-old young man? The moment he swallowed it, the moment he ate, drank the drops, he began to wrinkle. Wrinkling means getting lines on the skin. Okay, we know if we observe very old people, our grandparents, we can see wrinkles on their hand and skin. Okay, and getting lines. And shriveling means shrinking. Okay, shriveling means they began to shrink, their skin and fat, it began to shrink up all over, and his body began to shrink, and lines, a lot of lines on the skin, and his hair started dropping off. His hair began to fall down. Okay, we know old people's hair will fall, and his teeth started falling out. His teeth, it began to fall down. Okay, we know old people, for old people, they will not have teeth. Okay, before I knew it, he suddenly become an old fellow of 75. So the boy become, the 20-year-old young man become 75 years of old. Okay, so he invented a medicine or a liquid. If we have it, okay, we will grow old. Okay, a 20-year-old young man become 75 years old man. Okay, a young man become an old man. So thus, my dear Charlie, Vita Wong is invented. So what is the name of that medicine? Vita Wonk. So first he invented Wonga White that made people younger, and later he invented Vita Wonk that made the people grew older. Okay, so this is the story, the invention of Vita Wonk. Thank you.